What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got John Connolly of Sevendust. Thank you for your time today, man. It's really great to have you here.
Absolutely, man.
So the newest album is Blood and Stone, scheduled to come out very, very soon. Is this just a continuation of from All I See Is War, or do you think that this is almost kind of like a new beginning for Sevendust in a way?
You know, it's an interesting question. I don't think it's a continuation, because there was really nothing. When we finished All I See Is War, people ask all the time, like, where are the B-sides, where are the extras and stuff like that. And we did have two songs that didn't make the cut, but there wasn't anything on this record that was hanging around from the last one. This one was almost like sort of a fresh start. When we started doing demos in early 2019, I'm not sure why, because typically the first thing that I'll do before I, start the writing process is I'll go through and I'll kind of spend some time in the Dropbox folder and find out what did we miss. There's always that one song or two songs. I mean, it happened with Decay, was sort of a leftover from Cold Day Memory, and then I think, Thank You, believe it or not, was actually a song that wasn't going to make the cut. I mean, it was literally getting eliminated off the record. And it was a demo that had been kind of hanging out for a while. Yeah, go figure, right?
Imagine, and it becomes a big hit.
I'm like, what? But there's always sort of like a connection back to that last record, because we always go, what did we miss? What did we not get to? Because sometimes it's like, we'll bring in so many demos. A lot of people think, okay, it wasn't good enough. And sometimes it has nothing to do with that. Sometimes you just run out of time. Or sometimes you just don't get all five people to see that same vision that that demo may have. Decay was a perfect example. Decay was literally, when we were doing that song, Clint was going through the hard drive. And he was like, man, we never finished this song called My Memory. Why don't we just do it? Just do it to have an extra song. And I remember, we sat down with it. We spent a little bit of time, threw a little guitar part. He threw a vocal melody over it. Vinny walks in the room, heard it, and goes, that's the single. And I was like, no, it's not. And he goes, yeah, it is. We're going to shoot a video, and it's going to be the biggest song on the record. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that didn't happen this time. It was weird. It was like nobody went back through the drives. So when we started in early 2019, it was really a fresh start. I was sort of in a really, really bizarre place too. Like I warned the guys that, just so you know, I haven't found my guitar. We were actually in the process of moving. We were thinking we were going to move, and we ended up not moving. But all of our stuff went into pods. We got storage. We cleaned the house up. We're getting all dialed in. So here I am getting ready to move. And then we ended up staying. But when I started the writing process, my daughter's keyboard was sitting in the studio with me, and I was just writing on piano. So I remember I told OJ and Morgan, I was like, don't freak out. Keep an open mind. And I'm just letting you know that there's a lot of piano stuff in here. It doesn't have to be, obviously stuff that's going to live on piano. If we don't want to, it can be translated. It can move around. But for me, it was a totally different place to start from, because typically for me it's like, you get the drum machine out, program some beats, and then you grab a guitar and you just start riffing like crazy, and I'll usually record big slabs of stuff, 40, 45 minutes of just mindless me just jamming, and then the next day I'll grab a cup of coffee, go in there without a guitar and just listen.
Wow.
And 39 minutes of it is all just garbage, but there's always that 4 or 5 minutes of, oh, wait a minute, what's that? And you hit your locate points. And 9 times out of 10, the song's all there, because it's all the same tempo, roughly the same key. You're playing the same key, so you sort of organize your thoughts that way. And it's a cool process for me to go through, because it's like writing without trying to write. Sometimes if I go, all right, I'm going to write a heavy song, and you end up sitting with a piano, you're like, all right, well, it's so much for my good intentions of what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But this record, it was a totally fresh start. And, I think Clint was in the same boat too, because anytime that you bring that many demos in, you always kind of remember ones that you didn't get to that were always worthy, or should have got their day, in court, or the day in the studio. And it wasn't like that. At the 11th hour, I remember we busted out a bunch of, okay, these are cool, and everyone was so into the newer stuff that we really didn't pay much attention or give much time to any of the stuff that had been kind of hanging out. So yeah, this was 100% a completely fresh batch of stuff.
All organic Sevendust.
You know?
All organic Sevendust. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, pretty much. All organic Sevendust, yeah.
Yep. Well, as a fan of Sevendust, if you played me, like, a minute of a song, I could tell that would be off of Animosity or Seasons or Cold Day Memory. So it's fair to say that, it's almost fair to say that almost every Sevendust album you've always taken a new approach or experimented a little bit or changed things up a bit, right? It's not like you go into something with, like, a preconceived idea, right?
Well, we've tried. I think the closest that we ever came to, well, we did it once. We did it on Alpha. I remember I was talking with Morgan on the phone, and we were like, let's just hop in the studio and make a record right now, real fast. And he was like, really? And he was like, let's make a really heavy record. I was like, let's make a concept record. He was like, all right, cool, let's book it. That way, the clock is ticking, which we never typically do. I mean, 9 times out of 10, usually what we'll do is we'll just start the demo process, and then once we feel comfortable enough with what we have, that's when we kind of look at timelines and things like that. But Alpha was the only thing that actually had an agenda. That was the only record where we said, no editing, we're playing all together, we're going to do it live, there's no programming. We set parameters on that record, but it's the only time in our career that we've done that. Every other time we've always just kind of started the process and let the record come to us. Because we're always surprised by where we end up. If we say we're going to make this kind of a record, it never works out that way. There's usually so many demos and so many different opinions, things that they'll pick. I mean, for me, it's crazy because I'll put a Dropbox folder in there, and then I'll just give everyone, everyone can share, everyone can view, everyone can edit. And it's crazy because I might put 25 ideas in there, and I might be really, really attached to 5 of them. And out of that 5, there may be only one that everyone else picks. It's the most bizarre thing in the world because I'll put all the ones that I really hate down to the bottom, like at the end, hopefully that they won't spend that much time and listen. And 9 times out of 10, they always gravitate towards those songs. So I'm like, all right, sometimes I just don't know. But I'm always surprised by what the guys will pick. So for me, it's kind of an interesting process because I'll record everything, demo everything, throw it in the folder, and then take your hands off the wheel and let them drive for a while. And I'm always shocked by the first pick. Like every record, I'm like, really? That one?
It always works that way.
All right. Show me where you think this thing is going. Because I'm like, that's garbage. Whereas like, it's my favorite demo that you've ever done. I'm like, oh, of course it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one was totally organic and no agenda whatsoever. We had no idea what the record was going to sound like until it was finished.
That sounds like a very beautiful way, and I feel like really, I mean, I could be wrong because I wasn't, in the studio with you guys, but like, I feel like every album is almost kind of like a good representation of like who you and Morgan and LJ and everybody in the band are at that time. Like, I know that Seasons was written from a very, very dark and personal place for you guys. I feel like Cold Day Memory was the first album that brought Clint back, right? So I'd imagine that was like a very unification vibe behind it. That's how I got, and I feel like Kill the Flaw have like a real edge to it. So it's almost like you look at these albums as self-portraits. It seems like you guys look at yourselves before you look at your instruments. Am I right?
100%. Yeah. And I mean, we're, every record that we've ever made, other than Alpha, but Alpha definitely fit just because of what we were going through at the time. It's like, we're just reacting to our environment. If there's things going on in our life, if we're going through lawsuits, you're going to get some heavy stuff. You're going to get us, talking about whoever is suing us. We just react to whatever we're going through, whatever our environment happens to be. If we're in a dark place, it's going to be a darker record. If we're in a happier place, it's going to be a little bit more introspective and, it's going to have a cooler vibe about it, But I think it's so hard to not react to your environment and your headspace, Kill the Flaw, perfect example. We were up in Architect at Butler, and we did 2 other records. We did the Time Travelers and Bonfires record, the acoustic record, and then we did Black Out the Sun. But when we were up there doing those 2 records, we were like late summer, early fall. So weather-wise, it was great. Kill the Flaw, we decided to make the record in February. February in New Jersey is brutal.
Yeah.
So an hour and a half of trying to dig out of the driveway, shoveling snow, and then you show up at the studio and all of us are just shaking our heads and are like, all right, it's definitely going to have an effect. We're going to write a really heavy song today. It's going to be, something brutal. But yeah, I mean, we totally react to whatever's happening in our lives and whatever kind of environment, we're around.
Yeah.
After the Butler thing, Kill the Flaw, we said, you know what, we're going to Florida. We're going to go to Disney World, we're going to play some golf, go to the beach occasionally, unplug, enjoy some sun. But yeah, I mean, we got a nice little working environment down here with Elvis. He lives about 10 minutes down the road from me. And, it's an easier environment. You don't have to deal with, crazy weather or any of that stuff. But I think we were just in a really, really good headspace when we finished the tour for All I See Is War. We were really, really excited about getting in the studio with Elvis again to make the record. And that's kind of what it sounds like. It just sounds like we were in a very, very good spot mentally.
Yeah, I mean, recording a record in the winter in New Jersey, how did that album not sound like Burzum by the time you were finished with it?
I know. It's just like, oh man, and you're trying to. I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, it could be worse. I mean, there's a million things that could be worse than going to the studio to make the record, but it's still, it's like just having to deal with that. It has an effect. It has a definite effect. Coming and going from the studio every day was just like, oh god, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's see how long is it going to take us to get to the studio today. When you make a record here with Elvis, it's like, it's weird for me because I'm the only one who travels. I actually travel to and from my house to the studio every day, but the rest of the guys are there. They just wake up, get upstairs, have breakfast, and hop in the studio because they live in the studio. So there's no travel, none of that stuff. So it's sort of bizarre for me, even though I'm in the town that the producer lives in. I'll throw my toiletry bag in a backpack in the back of the car, for occasionally, I'll crash out over at the house, hang with the guys or whatever. But 9 times out of 10, I'm the one who's commuting back and forth, so it's a little strange, but it's still such a great setup down here. We just love the experience working with Elvis and being in Florida, being in some decent weather.
Yeah, I'm here in New York. I can't say that I relate to that, but it's okay. But being such a prolific artist, and not even just for you, but for everybody in Sevendust, like Clint with the 40 bands that he's in, but playing with your history with Peace Dogs as well as playing with Projected. Is there maybe a different mind frame depending on the project that you are working with, or is there a usual method behind the madness that applies to everything that you play?
I'm sort of a creature of habit these days. It's like, I know what works for me for the most part as far as how I approach sitting down and pulling demos together and stuff like that. But it is interesting because with Sevendust, everything goes into the folder, and it's one folder. It used to be, okay, this is a Projected song, this is a Sevendust song. Now I can't tell. I just know that if I sing on it, I don't sound anything like LJ. I wasn't gifted with that type of a voice, so I know that once LJ actually sings on it, it's going to sound very Sevendust, whether we like it or not. So typically what I'll do is I'll just put everything into the folder and let the guys pick the demos that we're going to work on. Every now and again, they'll ask me, well, which one are you feeling really strongly about? And I'll voice my opinion, but sometimes I don't like to do that because if I'm bringing everything, if I'm throwing everything in the folder there anyways, then I want to hear what their opinion is. I've already given my opinion because I've actually built the demos. Same thing with Clint. So it's, I don't mind if Clint, goes in there, Clint Morgan, Benny, LJ, they'll go in there and kind of make their list of things that they like, and then we'll go and we'll approach them, With Projected, the only difference is typically I'll be very, very attracted to certain demos. There's certain demos that I'll just be like, okay, this one for sure is making the record. I have no idea what the vocal melody is or what the lyrics are going to be, but musically this one is just speaking to me. Mm-hmm. But that's really the only difference between the two projects is I pick 99% of everything that goes in with Projected, and I pick probably 1% of what actually goes on with Sevendust. Other than, actually presenting the demos in the first place, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I mean, doing this for as long as we've done it, I trust the guys, you know. You throw them in the folder, and, you know, Clint and myself are always surprised about what people gravitate towards. But that's what's so cool about it. You know, it's like if it was predictable, it'll probably get old and it'll probably get boring, you know. Morgan has a knack for picking my least favorite demo out of the folder first every record. He always does it too. He's like, that's the one. I'm like, that's not the one. What are you talking about? That song sucks. He goes, you wrote it? And I'm like, yeah, and I can tell you that it sucks. And 9 times out of 10, he's usually right. By the time we finish it and get LJ on it, you listen back and you're like, all right, well, I got trust in my guys, you know. So yeah, I mean, after 13 records of doing this, I have a lot more patience and I have a lot more trust, and I'm willing to actually take my hands off that steering wheel and let the other guys drive the car for a while, especially when it comes to your own demos.
Definitely. And like what I find unique is because like again, like I feel like it's fair to say like it's kind of like two questions in one, but I already know that with Blood and Stone, the new album, it's fair to say that the title track and The Day I Tried to Live is nowhere near representational of the entire record. Like I feel like your sound is very on a very experimental side, and I think that says a lot for like the bands that you've toured with as well. Like you've toured with, you know, the first time I saw you was with Disturbed, but then I saw you play with like Cold Chamber, and then I saw you play with like Trivium. Like there's so many different styles of bands that you've played with. All That Remains, like it's fair to say that you've attracted many different audiences depending on, you know, with your multiple styles and your multiple tour packages as well, right?
For sure. I mean, one of the strangest years I think in the history of our band, we were we did a Creed tour, and then we did Tattoo the Earth, and we were in between Sepultura and Slayer. And then we went back to the Creed tour. So shifting gears between Arms Wide Open and Rain and Blood is, I mean, the set list, I don't think that there might have been one song that was the same between the two set lists. You know, because while opening up for Creed, you know, we came out there with playing Home and just teeing off, and, you know, mothers are covering their, you know, kids' eyes, and like, I'm like, all right, you know, we're the heaviest thing that they've ever heard or seen. But, you know, we felt like Bon Jovi going on before Slayer. So, you know, it was weird having to shift the gears back and forth between it. But it's kind of cool being in a band that can have those different gears. I don't know too many bands that can pull off opening up for Creed and Slayer in the same year.
Yeah, no, and that is pretty awesome. I think it's kind of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because like to a Creed crowd, you guys are like Emperor or Mayhem, and then like opening up for Slayer, you guys are like Cher. So.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yep, but that keeps it interesting, and I feel like, you know, you have so many songs and so many different vibes. You guys have a way of making it work.
You know, I think ever since Angel Sun. You know, we did Angel Sun, and then we did the experiment with the acoustic tour back in the day. I think that kind of opened our eyes to the possibilities, that it didn't have to be, you know, one thing, or it didn't have to be one style. And I mean, in some ways, the acoustic stuff that we do it's a cool way for us to approach, you know, the same songs, but just in a totally different vibe. And it's cool for us to, you know, to take it to that place, you know, to be able to have two versions of Denial and two versions of Karma and two versions of, you know, a lot of these different songs that completely don't sound like each other at all. But I think that's really a testament to what LJ gives us the ability to do. I mean, when we first started, you know, there was a lot of bands out there that just had, you know, like metal bands, you know, typically you didn't really have singers. You had dudes that were growling and super guttural, and, you know, there's a lot of bands that I love, you know, like Randy and Lamb of God. I think it sounds phenomenal doing that. But LJ, that wasn't his thing. You know, his thing was just let me sing. So that was sort of our niche, I guess. You know, it's like, all right, we're just going to write brutal, heavy music, and LJ's just going to do whatever he's going to do over the top of it. And hopefully people will like it, you know. And now, you know, you look back 25 years, and I'm like, all right, well, that's the one thing that probably set us apart, and it gave us the ability to do those things. You know, to do a Creed tour. Yeah. You know, we could do Angel Sun, and people would be like, oh, wait a minute, I like this song. you know. And the longer that we did the Creed tour, the more we realized, you know what, let's cater to the audience here instead of just going just. I remember the first show opener for Creed, it was hysterical because we literally had just done a radio show and we were like, all right, tee off on everything, heaviest songs in the set. So we took that set list and threw it up there, and I swear we scared the crap out of half the crowd. But after you know, a few shows, we were like, all right, let's throw some of the softer ones in there and just see what happens, see if we can kind of, you know, win them over. And it was a cool experiment for us too, because it was like, you know, the first song, everyone's just nervous, everyone's kind of looking around like, what's happening here? And by the third or the fourth song of the set, LJ would just, you know, work the crowd to the point where they, you know, you could see the crowd shifting through. I mean, I think we were only playing maybe 30 or 40 minutes, but the first 10 minutes was shock and awe, and then the last 15, 20 minutes was like, okay, these guys are all right.
Yeah.
They're not going to hop off stage and set us on fire or try to kill us or anything like that, you know.
They definitely will not forget you, though.
No.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, that you know, I think being a heavy band and having the gift of a singer like LJ, you know, it's something that I can't, you know, I can't speak enough about, because he gives us the ability to do a lot of things that a lot of just heavy, you know, bands. I mean, the fact that we were actually nominated, you know, to get nominated for a Grammy is one thing, but we were nominated in the metal category. I was like, it really wasn't that much of a metal song, but ironically enough, I remember talking with Jose, because he ran the committee. He said the biggest thing that they did that year is they had to specify what's metal and what is hard rock. And they actually had people listen and pick the categories. Because what was it, years ago, Jethro Tull beat Metallica, and there was all the drama over, okay, what's really hard rock and what's metal, you know, make a difference, and figure out which is which. And he's like, there were 30 people in the room, and they all said that Thank You is a metal song. So I went, okay.
Yeah. Again, like, there's some, like, I know people who are Cannibal Corpse is like radio rock to them. So, like, heavy is so, like, and then I've talked with people like, oh, is the music you listen to heavy like Stained? They would think Stained is like devil music. So, like, heavy and, you know, aggression, it's so subjective, you know? It's really, and I really think what makes Sevendust a heavy band is the emotion that you channel into it. Like, I remember the song Broken off of Seasons, like, that really, or no, not Broken, I'm sorry, Honesty, that song, you know, it's very melodic, it's very, you know, but it's so melancholy, it's so dark. I mean, that is a song for pain, and I feel like you guys use pain and emotion as just a paintbrush, and I think that's what makes you just as heavy as any metal band that's out there.
Oh, that's cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the goal, you know. I mean, most of these songs that we write, you know, we're not the type of band who's going to write about space dragons and, you know, far off places. And, you know, it's cool to have the Iron Maidens of the world that have, like, themes and, you know, they talk about those types of things. But we're just kind of, you know, with us, I think the music is therapy. You know, you got something on your mind, it's going to come out in a song. If you're thinking about something, someone's pissing you off, it's going to come out in a song. If you're in a good spot, then that's going to come out in the song too, you know. So for us, it's sort of like, you know, when you listen to a Sevendust record, you know what we were going through. Good, bad, and different. You know, there's peaks and valleys. There's good days, there's bad days. And on some of the bad days, you know, the beauty of what we do musically and, you know, lyrically is the fact that some of those bad days inspire some of the most amazing pieces of music. You know, sometimes it's tough when you're in a really, really good, happy place. It's like, this record just, it doesn't sound representative of what the band's going through. But, you know, there's 5 very distinct, you know, personalities in the band, and, you know, at any given point in time, someone could be having something going on in their life. And, you know, we're around each other. Other than this year, we're around each other so much that, you know, we're there. We experience it. You know, when LJ's going through something at home, we're there to see it. We see it in real time. We see how it affects his stage performance. Same thing with Clint, you know, same thing with me. We're around each other more than our families are. So it's easy for us to get on that same page musically and just, you know, dive into the dark stuff and not be afraid of it.
Yeah, and especially playing live. The last time I saw you was at the Trivium Like a Storm Westfield Massacre tour at PlayStation Theater. And first off, I think Vince must have hit me like 10 times in the face with his picks. It was awesome.
I'm sure.
do you remember when that like 700-pound guy crowd surfed over the barricade? Do you remember that?
I think I do. Yeah.
Yeah. The security guards were like stone cold faced like the whole time, and then they saw that happen and they just broke out laughing.
Right. Yeah.
But like, there's such an essence of community in the show. I feel like Vince is always acting like a character on stage. I feel like you and Clint really demonstrate technical excellence. You have Morgan letting out all the aggression, and then you have LJ who's able to serenade the listener. I think your music has many different vibes, and I think that's transcended into the audience, and therefore that's why I feel like watching you live has a very similar energy to simply listening to the music as well.
Well, that's cool. I mean, that's the ultimate goal at the end of the day. I mean, we write the music for ourselves first, but we're not unique. I mean, the thing about it is we're human beings like everyone else is. And, when we're going through something that's tough or something that's good, we know that there's other people out there that are going through similar things. That's why, we always try to make something that we're writing about relatable. It may be very specific and personal to us, but to somebody else, they may take it a slightly different way, but it still means something to them. They may understand because it's like that song, is saying what I feel like I'm going through right now in my life. But like I said, we're all humans. We're all on this ride together. And, we wake up, we have breakfast and coffee like everyone else does. We have good days, we have bad days, we have, drama with the family, drama with COVID-19. It's like we're all in this together. So when we do write those songs, we hope that people can relate to them because we're just talking about stuff that's just honestly things that we're going through in our own lives.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you're so honest, and you guys have such a dedicated fan base, and I've talked with people who've said that your music has helped them through very difficult times as well, and I think both the fans deserve you guys, and you deserve your great fans as well. Like, for real.
Well, they've been on this ride with us, they're as much a part of our family as anything. When you spend 25 years hanging out with and going and seeing and supporting, that band, we've grown up together. When LJ says that on stage, he's not lying, because we look around in the crowd and we're like, I remember meeting, half of the people, especially like in the New York shows, any of the major cities, New York, Boston, Chicago, those cities, like, were some of the first cities that we played back in, 97, 98. And it's 20 years later. So you think, we got 2 decades of people, worth of people that are just continuing to come back out, and when we see them, it's kind of like catching up with an old friend, you've seen them so many times, they've been so supportive of us, and, our fans are just the best. The fact that you can actually have people that get that connection with you and want to take the journey with you. We would do this either way, but it makes it a whole lot easier when you have a fan base that sticks by you, for decades.
Yep. I was 4 years old when the first Sevendust album came out, just to give you a feel.
That's awesome.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And, I can't wait for the rest of the world to hear this amazing new album. Is there anything else with Sevendust that you would like to promote? We have a live stream performance happening very soon. Is there just anything else you would like to promote? Obviously, when this virus that I choose not to name on my outlet goes away, we'll be seeing you on the road quite a bit, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, it's like we're waiting like everyone else is. We just want to do it, and we want to do it the right way. We don't want people to, trust me, we love what we do, and it really sucks to be sitting on the sideline waiting to find out when we're going to be able to get back to work again. But at the end of the day, it's like a concert. I understand how important it is. It's definitely important for us and our families and things like that. But at the same time, it's like, until we can get our heads wrapped around what's actually going on with this thing, until there's some sort of a vaccine or we just got some, treatments and stuff. And just everyone stay safe, stay healthy, do the best you can, because we definitely want to get back to it, but we want to do it in a really, really responsible and safe manner. We don't want, the worst thing that we could do is open up everything too fast, and then end up having, you know, all kinds of crazy spikes in the numbers and stuff like that. And I mean, it sucks. I want this over as fast as humanly possible, but I also want to be able to have people come to a concert and not have to worry about going to the hospital the next day.
Yeah.
So
it's like that with anything. You rush anything, it's going to suck.
Yep, it is.
So, but John, thank you so much. Everybody, John Connolly of Sevendust, Blood and Stone, coming out very soon. Be sure to pick it up then. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.